Jon Snow is back. And that's understandably freaking people out a little bit. Varys discovers who's behind the Sons of the Harpy, and Cersei gets shut down at the Small Council. It's Game of Thrones, Season 6, Episode 3, Oathbreaker. Alright, spoilers ahead, just so you've been warned. Alright, again, moving the story along, and that's what these scenes of the really Game of Thrones episodes tend to do, is each one just moving the story on a little further. Sometimes big stuff, sometimes small stuff, and we get kind of a mixed bag this week. Let's start off with a few of the smaller moments. One, we see Sam Tarly again, and he's taking Gilly back to his home to try and make her safe. He's on his way to become a maester back at the Citadel, but of course, the Citadel won't take women, won't take children. Now, of course, Gilly responds back that, well, that's the same thing that happens at Castle Black, but again, Citadel, King's Landing, little more important area. So, in order to keep Gilly safe, she is taking her back to his home. Now, his father's kind of a rough man, but he says his mother's kind, his sister is all right, so he is hoping that she is going to have a safe area there where she can live, where little Sam can grow up, and then Big Sam Tarly can go back and continue to study to be a maester to help out Jon back up at the wall. Of course, different things going on there, but we'll hit that a little bit later on. I don't think this is going to go quite as smoothly as Sam is hoping for, but again, one of those stories that we're going to see progress throughout the season. Now, we also get to see Rickon Stark, who we haven't seen since we saw Bran Stark, way back. It's been quite some time since we have seen. And Osha was taking him along to one of their bannermen up in the north. And that didn't really work out. Now Rickon is being offered to Ramsay. Hopefully he will keep all of his body parts with him, unlike Theon, who turned into Reek. Hopefully Rickon will have a little bit of a better fate than that, but overall, things don't look really well for him. And Khaleesi has returned to Val Dothraki, the Dothraki kind of, I would say, homeland city. It's the closest to a city that a roaming tribe tends to have. But basically has arrived into the large house where the Khall's widows end up living after the Khal has died. Meets one of the older Khals, and basically, while it's kind of a power play back and forth of who's tougher out of these ex-queens, the main thing that we're finding out here is that her fate is going to be determined by a council, because Khaleesi had left after Khal Drogo died and went out and wandered out, and that's not really allowed. Supposedly right after the Khal dies, you're supposed to come back to the city and live out the remainder of your days. Because she did not, because she's the frickin' Queen of the Dragons and she don't have to do anything like that, she's going to have to face sort of a council who's going to make her decision. So what we can look forward is there's going to be some tests, there's going to be some challenges, and basically this is going to allow time for Jorah and Daario to come and rescue her, I think. Might find out a little bit more about the Dothraki, might find a little bit more about her, but overall I think this is just kind of buying time until we have Daario and Mormont, Jorah Mormont come out and get her. So that's really all that happened there. Meanwhile, Bran is still training with the Three-Eyed Raven, played just wonderfully by Max von Sydow. It's always great to see him. But they're journeying a little bit more into the past, discovering a bit more of Ned Stark's past. And here we're looking right after the rebellion, where Ned is trying to find and get his sister back. And Bran is starting to discover that, the stories that he was told isn't necessarily the truth. What his father told to be a great battle with the greatest swordsman that he defeated, finds out the swordsman almost beat Ned, and the only reason Ned survived is because his buddy stabbed the guy in the back. Again, a little bit of discoveries of that maybe the tales that we hear aren't exactly the truth, which I think is part of what the Three-Eyed Raven is starting to show him, is the deeper meanings behind the reality of these stories. But the big moment really within that is Ned hearing Bran cry out for him. That's really the only explanation. The Three-Eyed Raven sort of throws it out. Oh, maybe it was the wind, maybe it was whatever. We know. He heard. Which means, even though the Three-Eyed Raven says that the past is set in stone, it's already written, the ink is dry, here there is some interaction, which means either the past is not necessarily set, or all of these things did happen. Again, he can reach back into the past, but that reaching back to the past did already happen, so he's reliving those moments. It becomes a very complication in with time travel, and I think we can kind of sidestep all of that for a moment, but just see that Bran can, at least on some level, interact with the past. He is not just watching the past, but he is interacting with it. And back at Meereen, well, they're still waiting for Khaleesi to come back. But in the meantime, they're still needing to get some work done. And here we have Varys doing what Varys does best. Talking, finding information. We get to find a little bit of his technique, the way that he's done things, and it's beautiful. So he's speaking with Vala, who had gotten a couple of the Unsullied killed. As we saw last season, she was the one that sort of was stroking the hair and adding comfort before slicing the neck, and the Sons of the Harpies coming in. So again, not a great person, but we find out she's doing this to protect her kid, as things often are. But really, again, we are getting to see how Varys does things. And I love how he says, I get people to help because I make them happy. I give them what they want, and then they tell me what I need to know. It's just beautiful character work, beautifully written, and just wonderfully performed and acted. Varys is just awesome to see. I love him doing his stuff. Meanwhile, Tyrion is having a lovely conversation with Missandei and Grey Worm, which Tyrion really needs to find people that can have good conversation and not just talk about patrol, where we go on patrol, what we do on patrol. Again, not conversation. Game-wise, also, these people are not designed for games. Again, Tyrion's have a very privileged life. These have not, so we're seeing really the kind of differences in culture and position right there. Just a wonderful little scene that's buying time until Varys comes back, which Tyrion's very happy to see him return. And we find out that it's really the masters that are behind the Sons of the Harpy. The other cities outside of Meereen that Khaleesi had conquered have fallen. They have gone back to the masters, and now they are funding the Sons of the Harpy to finish overthrowing Khaleesi and return Slavers Bay completely into the hand of the slavers. But now that they know who is in charge, some negotiations, some discussions can begin. And this all happens with Varys' little birds. Little birds are the ones that he can trust, that will do what it is that he needs, and whose messages will not be lost. And speaking of little birds, Qyburn is taking over at King's Landing quite well. And it was kind of fun to actually see all of the little birds, all the little children who listen to the whispers gathering around, and to see a little bit more of how that is handled. A lot of sweets in the exchange. That seems to be the currency of the birds there. But basically we're seeing as Qyburn is really establishing himself. Here are the treats, now the whispers that you hear, you will tell back to me. And of course he will report that back to Cersei, who is now very happy that Qyburn's getting his little tendrils all set up right there, because she is definitely on that mission of revenge. Anybody that talks shit about her, anybody that's scheming anything, she wants to know, and she will probably send the Mountain out to crush them. Though, of course, the Mountain can't do everything. He can't just go into, say, the High Sparrows Council there and just sort of kill everybody and take all of that out, because there's too many people. As strong as the Mountain is, he is just one guy. So she kind of needs a little bit of help, which gets her and Jaime into the small council. Now the small council has pretty much been taken over by the Tyrells. Mace Tyrell, who is the hand of the king, and then we have Queen Tyrell there also. And Grandmaster Parcell, who is just complaining about everything that Qyburn is doing, and in the perfect kind of just regular tropic way, discussing the horrors and the wrongness that is the mountain, or the regenerated, reborn form of the mountain, just as they walk in. Pretty standard stuff, but also always fun to see Grandmaster Parcell sort of, quaking in his boots. Little discussions there, but basically what we're finding out here is how much Cersei wants to reinsert herself into the small council, regather some of the power that she has lost with, her kids taking over the kingdom, and Tommen becoming king again and marrying Marjorie and all of that stuff. She's trying to regrasp some of the power that she has lost, but is not getting much cooperation in that sense. Like they said, no, we can't stop you from walking into the council, but you also can't stop us from leaving. Now, Arya has returned to the House of Black and White, and she is continuing, accelerating her training as an assassin. And I think they did a great job with a little montage sequence, just showing her starting out, getting her butt handed to her by the waif several times, which the waif, I think, was thoroughly enjoying. But starting to see that development of those skills, learning to use that sense of smell, the sense of touch, the hearing, identifying the compounds, identifying the chemicals, learning how to lie better by telling, that whole sequence of her telling the story of her past, change one thing and I know it, then we're going to hit you. As it starts out, she's getting her butt handed to her again, just like in the combat sequences. But as time goes on, the hits are less intense. She's able to lie better. She's able to alter that story more and more until it gets to that point where it's just beautifully turned around, where we're talking about the list. And there's only 3 names that she's giving onto the list. And apparently the waif can't determine that she's necessarily lying, but she's pushing her. Just 3? Are you sure there's not more? That seems to be a very short list. And Arya just turns it right around. Whose name would you like me to put on it? Who would you like me to say? What do you want to hear? And I will tell you. It's just, again, a really nicely done sequence. The montage we're used to, that starts, it's the whole development of a skill. That's a general trope that is used in film and TV all the time. But here, again, I just thought that they did that really well, sequentially, and just showing all of those little moments. The one cool little thing in all of that was the Hound. The Hound was on the list, but apparently the Hound is not on the list anymore. And when they split, there was kind of that one thought after the Hound had sort of tumbled off the cliff and he had asked Arya to kill him, and she just takes his bag of silver and walks away, which was beautiful. My thinking at that time was, I just want you to suffer. I know you're going to die, but I'm not going to end it quickly for you. But there was a little bit of bonding that's going on, and now maybe reflecting back is, she wants him dead and she doesn't want him dead. She wasn't entirely sure. So maybe at that point, that wasn't so much of, now I can kill you or I want to let you suffering, but I don't know what to do. I'm not really sure what I think about you anymore, Hound. So I'm just going to leave you where you are, and I'm going to take your silver and I'm going to move on with my life. And maybe we'll meet up again and maybe we won't. But I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, because I did think they had a nice kind of bond going off. And as despicable as the Hound can be, he did save Sansa. He did finally see what was going on with, Mad King Jr. there, and decide that he had to leave. So, there is some development, and I just thought that was kind of a nice thing to see, especially with everything else that Arya has been through. But she passed all of the tests, and she eventually, as we see, regains her sight. But there was a little bit of nervousness sitting there by the water, because everybody who drinks the water, they die. Which is why she was hesitant on that. And as Jaqen said, look, if you truly are no one, then you don't have anything to worry about. Is it magical water? Is it a test? I mean, how exactly does all this work out? She had no vision, and then she got her vision back. So there is definitely something next level that's going on here. But again, I think this is showing, her development of her craft. Now, is the list still there? Is she still inside Arya Stark and is she's using this? I'm not sure. I think I like to look at her as playing the long game in all of this, as really willing to do what needs to be done in order to get to where she needs to go. But on the other hand, how does she pass this test otherwise? That's kind of the question. For the Faceless God, he wants death, and Arya is certainly more than happy to deliver a level of death. She's got a list of names. Hey, here you go. I will give these to you. So is that the plan for the Faceless Gods? Does she really know one? Don't know yet, but it's going to be fun to find more of that out. And of course, we have the continuing story of the return of Jon Snow. And yes, people are freaking out a little bit. I love the opening shot of Davos just sort of staring at him in disbelief. It's just sort of a beautiful little moment right there. And Jon's, of course, he's freaking out too. He was dead. He was stabbed and he died. And I love Melisandre coming in right there also. She's going through that test of faith and now just staring at him. Oh my God, he is alive. The Lord of Light wanted you here. Really hear information. What she wants to know is, what did you see? What did you see after you died before you were brought back? Show me, tell me about the other side. And for Jon Snow, I just love his responses. There was nothing. There was nothing. He was alive, then he was dead, and there was nothing, and he's alive back. And I think that kind of pushes her belief system a little bit in a sort of twisty way too. She's now holding on to, yes, something has happened. The Lord of Light did want you here, as she's saying, you were the one that I saw, and it wasn't Stannis. So this is going to allow her to sort of grip back into her belief and to see what Jon was meant here for. Now, the one thing with that, when Jon does speak to Davos and ask him, why am I back? I would have thought that Davos would have had a little bit better of a response. I mean, he was the one that went to Melisandre and asked, hey, can Jon Snow not be dead? Is there something that you could do? Obviously, Davos is seeing something. And of course, it's, the protection of the wall, it's running Castle Black, defending against the White Walkers and all of that. I think that's what he's wanted, but he didn't say anything about that. And I just thought that, when Jon asks him, why am I back? What am I supposed to do? But I failed, and Davos' response, it was cool. Well, you failed? Well, just go out there and fail again. I'm not sure. You've got to do your things. I just would have thought that he would have had a better response for Jon. Even just explaining, you were needed here. There was some reasoning, something. But Davos is kind of just lost at that moment. And I don't know. I just would have thought, again, for someone who orchestrated and really worked to try and have Jon brought back to life, that he would have had a little bit more to offer him. But everyone else back at Castle Black, of course, really freaking out. I love the sort of little meeting between him and Tormund. Tormund just kind of blows it off. Yes, this is an amazing wild thing, but who knows what crazy stuff the wildlings have seen north of the wall. He pretty much accepts it straight away. Yeah, this is a little crazy, but come on. Let's bring it in with a big old hug right here. You're alive. That's great. And of course, reuniting with the rest of his buddies there, very strong, great moments. But not so good for Sir Alster and Oliver, Ollie, and the rest of them, who of course are now going to be hung for killing the Lord Commander. Nice, great little moments. You have the other little siblings like, hey, didn't know, blah, blah, blah. But you get to Alistair, and he was great. Because he did not apologize for a moment. He knew the decision that he had made and why he had made it. For the first time, Jon Snow, you allowed wildlings south of the wall. That's not what we're here for. Well, but again, this is that difference of viewpoint. I mean, Alistair's a dick, for sure. But for Jon, as he had said last season, is here to protect the realms of men. All of the realms of men. North and south. The defense is against the White Walkers, not so much the Wildings. So that's a difference of opinion. But I have to give it up to Sir Alistair for at least committing to his belief system. Hey, I made a call. Obviously it didn't work out right, but I still would have made the exact same call even knowing what was going on right now. That's commitment, and you have to honor that to a certain level. Ollie, on the other hand, just full of rage and hate. That look he was giving Jon Snow, he didn't need to say anything, Jon didn't need to say anything back to him. That was hate right there. And showing off why Jon needed to kill them. I mean, it's part of the rules of Castle Black. You did kill the Lord Commander. You know, you've betrayed, you've broken your oath in that sense. And you have to pay the price. And you also can't have them influencing the rest of the men or causing any more trouble. That's kind of the move that he had to make. And of course, he does it because, like he learned from his father, from Ned, if you're going to execute a man, if you are going to commit that punishment, then you should be the one to do it. Now, after that's done, and they got the great little death stares as they're hanging and just sort of staring with their judgmental eyes back at Jon. I'm not sure if his choice was made before then or in that moment, but Jon just hands off his coat and says, that's it, I am out of here. Much like I'm about to do in a few minutes. But he says that he is gone. And you can understand it. You know, he made an oath until his death, until his watch was done. Well, he died. And he was dead for a while, a good day or so. I mean, we have to sort of see how the time passes, but from what it seems to be, that was the time passing right there. That was about a day. He was dead, gone, out of that. That sort of removes his obligation. That fulfills his oath. They don't have little additions to, well, if you're dead and you come back to life, are you still a Night's Watchman? But I think this is Jon. He doesn't want to deal with this type of politics, this type of drama, this type of decisions and judgment against him anymore. He has gone through a horrible major thing. He was dead. He is now back. What is he going to do now? And I think that's really going to be the question for Jon. What is it that you want to do? Are you going to lead the Wildlings? Are you going to go back to Winterfell and help take that back? Which I think is the direction that he's going in. But, you know, we have to sort of kind of wait and see. But he is definitely gone and out of there. And I thought that was sort of a great way to end it. Just, and my watch is done. Boom. I'm gone. So I think he's probably going to head back to Winterfell and is going to help take back the North, help reconnect back with his family. Death tends to put things in perspective. But again, more things that we're going to have to wait and see. And will the rest of the Night's Watch, how are they going to continue to react to these developments? That's going to be really interesting to see. So that is it for this week. Again, some big developments, some small little storylines going on. Terry and Himi, I hope I answered the questions that you had asked about, you know, what's going to happen with Jon? Is he going to seek revenge against those that killed him? Yes. Yes, he just hung them. So I think that answers that. So if you guys have any more comments or questions, why don't you throw them down in that section below? Enjoy the review, hit that like button, give it a little thumbs up. I appreciate that. And if you'd like to come back every week, there's a little subscribe button right there. It's in red. You can click that, join us, come back every week. I do Game of Thrones, Fear the Walking Dead, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, if you guys have not seen Civil War, you really should. It is an awesome movie. I do have a review I'll post up right here with Fox Time. She helped me out in doing this review. I want to give her a nice little thumbs up. She also helps me out in filming a lot of my little skits that I do. The stuff that I did at the beginning of this season for previously on Game of Thrones. She helped me out entirely with that. She's also my daughter, so I back her up with whatever it is she wants to do. But if you have seen Civil War, you can check out, like I said, our minor spoiler review right up here. Click on that, check that out. All right, so we are 3 episodes in, got another 7 episodes left. We'll be watching this all the way up to the end of June, so I look forward to seeing you guys every week. I hope you look forward to seeing me every week. Anyway, I'm D. You can catch me on Twitter. I'm at Darren Jakes. Other than that, I will see you guys later. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.